In the final episode of Ahsoka, we got an amazing prolonged reference to one of the darkest and most interesting stories of Legends lore. For most of the show, we all carried the suspicion that the Night Troopers in Thrawn's army weren't actually living, but were instead the undead. This was ultimately proven false in Episode 7, Dreams and Madness, when Ahsoka, Ezra, and Sabine took out a big group of troopers in a skirmish. But then, in the very next episode, the Jedi, the Witch, and the Warlord, we got our real undead stormtroopers, as the Night Mothers let loose their vile necromancy spell, and awoke the troopers that the group had just finished killing. Real zombie stormtroopers were coming after them this time, and they were a tough challenge, one that our heroes were forced to just outright flee from. Of course, this was all in reference to the 2009 Legends novel, Death Troopers, which tells the story of a Z-virus outbreak on an Imperial Star Destroyer in the unknown regions. So today, my friends, we are going to be taking a look at this story, talking about the nature of each incarnation of the undead stormtroopers, and talk about why the Death Troopers mixed with the Night Troopers in Ahsoka are extremely deadly and can compete with Jedi. The Death Troopers novel, as far as Legends goes, is actually pretty short, and tells the story of an Imperial prison barge transporting a large load of prisoners through the unknown regions. The warden of the ship explains to the captain that they're suffering some unexpected engine failure, and that they found a Star Destroyer abandoned in the middle of unknown wild space. The captain is suspicious that the Empire would just leave an entire Star Destroyer floating unaccounted for in the middle of space. However, he's just told to follow orders, and that they'd be sending a small team into the ship to recover the necessary parts to fix the prison ship's engines, so that they could then get moving again. However, little did they know that this Star Destroyer was a research vessel that was engineered to be a bioweapon for the Galactic Civil War, and that an outbreak of the weapon had consumed the entire ship. The Imperial team goes into the ship, but ends up getting spooked back onto the prison barge, having no idea that they have now inadvertently brought the virus back onto the ship. Over the course of the next few days, the entire prison ship is overrun by the virus, and the medical wing is completely full of sick guards and inmates, all of them coughing, showing symptoms of high body temperature, and constant profuse vomiting. While the doctor on board the ship does everything she can, for a while, all she can do is make the inmates comfortable before they pass on. But before anyone knows it, everyone on board the ship is dead except for 6 people. The captain, the doctor, 2 very young inmate boys, and 2 inmates in solitary confinement. Inmates revealed to be Han Solo and Chewbacca. The 6 of them meet up and plan an escape before being chased off the ship by a horde of zombies, consisting of the guards and the inmates. They barely make it off alive and end up being forced to take refuge on the Star Destroyer. The rest of the story consists of the characters trying their best to escape while uncovering the secret of this mysterious virus. The virus leads them to something known as Project Blackwing. The whole Z-virus idea was cooked up by the Emperor and was meant to be used to wipe out the Rebel Alliance in one fell swoop. But there had been a leak in one of the containers, and the outbreak consumed the entire Star Destroyer. Because of this, Palpatine had quietly swept it all under the rug by just abandoning the Star Destroyer in wild space. Eventually though, they would escape, destroying the ship in the process, though not all of them would make it. This is a quick summary of the events of the novel itself, though we recommend you guys check it out as it's an interesting read, especially for the Halloween season. Anyway, the Blackwing virus was something that was a mystery for some time, until the very next year in 2010. Here, we got a prequel novel that would be released under the title of Red Harvest, which told the story of the origins of the Blackwing virus. It all turned out to have been a Sith ritual gone wrong, created by a Sith Lord by the name of Darth Scabarus. This Sith had lived during the Old Republic, and was dated to have died in the year 3645 BBY, which would firmly place him in with the time of the Great Galactic War between the reconstituted Sith and the Galactic Republic, in a time where the Emperor Darth Vitiate reigned. At the time, Scabarus lived in a Sith academy on the world of Adasser Fatasin, and had been greedily searching for the Sith's ultimate goal of eternal life, hoping to keep the secret for himself. Though his research into the dark side and alchemy, he recovered a specific plant from the Jedi Agricultural Corps called the Makari Black Orchid. Using this mysterious plant, he conducted a ritual which went terribly wrong and killed his own apprentice. The apprentice ended up coming back to life as an undead creature though, who infected the rest of the Sith Academy. It's presumed that Darth Sidious would end up getting his hands on Scabarus's research, as well as the events that went down on this mysterious world. He would actually take Scabarus's mistake and synthesize it into a weapon, which of course also went horrifically wrong. But had this weapon gotten out to the rebellion as it was intended to, no one would have survived. We say this because the Death Troopers that it created is not like the zombies that we're typically affiliated with in our own world. The zombies of the Blackwing virus, as seen in Ahsoka, could actually learn as Han, Chewie, the Doctor, the Captain, and the two boys traversed the Star Destroyer. The undead zombies chasing them would eventually learn how to open doors, operate machinery, and even use blasters. While very clumsy at first, it wasn't but just a little over an hour before the undead began to be more accurate with their shots. It's implied that the undead could potentially learn enough to become intelligent beings again, driven only by their desire to eat, which means that they could have possibly learned to fly starships, and the entire galaxy would have been in massive trouble. Luckily though, it never came to that point. Interesting though, the undead stormtroopers in Ahsoka happened to exhibit something very similar. While at first they came back as mindless flesh puppets, they soon began to make a problem for themselves when it was shown that they could obey orders. Whatever strange enchantment the Night Sisters used on them ensured that the Night Troopers remained under their control, even while they were undead. We can see this because of the troopers as they all surround and patiently stand around while Morgan and Ahsoka duel. In an assuming coincidence, the canonically named Death Troopers, the elite trooper squad bearing the black armor, also turned into zombies and made a real problem out of themselves to our heroes in Ezra and Sabine. The Death Trooper Night Troopers showed strength that was unreal, to the point of physically dominating Ezra and Sabine, two skilled fighters and force wielders. On this subject of the black-suited Death Troopers, it was talked about for a while that they were called this because the Empire had already made zombies out of them. A prominent rumor. This is only partially true, as they weren't exactly undead, but they had been rigorously experimented on. The Death Troopers was a part of the Tarkin Initiative that was all about the rule of fear. These Black Knights were taken from a select group of highly capable individuals and given surgical enhancements to their bodies and even their minds. This made the Death Troopers faster, stronger, more accurate, and had far better endurance to the point of being beyond human. They were brainwashed even more aggressively than the normal stormtroopers were, and they only ever spoke amongst themselves and in rare times their superiors. The Death Trooper language was a garbled secret that only fellow Death Troopers knew. However, despite this, they were still very much alive, at least until the spell occurred in Ahsoka. The black armored Death Troopers, which became undead, were a real issue because they finally unleashed their strength. What's interesting to note here is that the Death Troopers seen in Ahsoka weren't given physical buffs because of the Night Sisters spell. They were already that strong. They just weren't holding back at all anymore. We often don't see the Death Troopers in melee combat because they wield blasters most of the time, but this is why they were usually relegated to being protection for high-ranking Imperials or security for important military locations. It was rare to use them as a frontline unit unless absolutely necessary. All in all, the idea of undead soldiers is extremely fascinating when one thinks to use them in a military setting. If they should perfect the Blackwing virus or upgrade the Night Sister spell to make sure the troopers retained their intelligence, Thrawn could ideally create an entire corps of undead stormtroopers. They would be extremely effective and likely far more dangerous than even a force-immune army. At this moment, we aren't sure whether this Death Trooper cameo was a one-off contingency plan for the Jedi, or if Thrawn might try to use these undead soldiers in open warfare and his new basic units. But hopefully Thrawn embraces this brand new strength, especially if the Night Sisters synthesized the spell into a virus just like the Project Blackwing. It could utterly destroy the galaxy if left unchecked. But anyway, my friends, what do you think about the Death Troopers in Ahsoka? Is this an incarnation of Legends lore? And are you interested in checking out both of these novels? As always, my friends, thank you guys so much for watching and supporting the channel, and may the Force be with you.